Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a conversion video. So if you haven't seen before, TAPP Airsoft, they've actually sent quite a few YouTubers products to look at recently, but they sent me some of these hybrid lowers, which basically is going to mean that I can take this, I can attach it onto this instead of that lower, and that is going to mean that I can, instead of running it through a gas blowback magazine, filling that with gas, BBs, etc., I can hook this up to an air tank, and then I can use MP5 mags, maybe these big ones here, and they'll just directly go into the bottom, or alternatively something more this size, so then I can just run something a little bit nicer, or nicer, smaller, less mag capacity, but you know, it's going to be a little bit less kind of protrusive. So what I'm going to do in this video, guys, is I am going to take this and I am going to basically set this up. So as you can see here, there is no trigger in here at the moment. There are no kind of lower components here. I think this should be fairly easy, as I've done some modifications on AAP-01s before, but we'll see. But they obviously do have like a fake mag that kind of sits in the top here. If you can see here, I'll give you a comparison. Move this stuff out of the way. I am going to install another trigger on this, but I'm not sure actually if I'm going to do that in this video or if I'm going to wait and do it at a later video. But I do want to put a different trigger on here just for that build. And then I am also going to put this on here, which is a thread adapter, which is going to go on the upper. So that's going to mean that I can attach a suppressor to the top here. But now I've removed that, this really is not going to do anything. I'm going to leave that to one side, because all the work that we need to do is basically taking the internals from here and putting them into here. So hopefully that is not going to be too difficult, and we're actually going to be able to do that. So we'll see if that actually is the case. What I'm going to do first off is I am going to remove some of these pins. I've got my little kit here, so I'm going to get to it. If you guys have any questions, of course, put them down in the comments section below, or if you're watching this live right now, hi, here I am. And you can definitely ask me any questions you would like to ask. I'm trying to remember now which is like the correct order to take this thing down, but I think I'm just going to go with it and we'll see how this works out. Okay, I'm going to put these on here so I remember where they are. That's my rear pin. So the good thing about filming this is I can actually turn around and re-watch what went where if I need to. Okay, so that's another one of the pins. It's a bit of a different one, that one. That's going to go here. So that's at the top. What I am going to do, I need to take the trigger pin out, but I also need to remove, I think, this, which is my safety. So I'm going to take this guy here and put that in place. So what I'm just doing there is just removing this out of here, which is the safety. And that is just going to pull straight out that way. So that's going to go there. The two pins that I took out were this rear pin right there, and then this pin, which is holding the trigger housing. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and take this all out in one block and kind of put it down in one block. So we'll see if that actually works out. But what I am going to do first is remove, and to not make this all messy, try and keep my stuff together if possible. So I'm hoping that this should basically take this AAP-01 and turn it into something which I'm very excited about, because it means I'll have the kind of like compact AAP-01, which normally I just have the regular size ones, the full length. That is going to go there. So I'm just taking these two screws out, one from this side and then one from this side. It's going to mean that I basically have taken this AAP-01, and instead of having like a 28 round mag in it, or 21 round mag, I can now have 100 round mags and do with it as I want. Take this guy out here as well. And then I can actually, if I want to, just switch the uppers out. I could just take some of my other uppers from my custom AAP-01s and use those. Those are all the same. And then I think the only one that I've got to do now is just this trigger pin, which I have to knock through. And I'm hoping I can then just kind of lift everything and move it over. But it's always like famous last words. I always find generally with these pins, I'll go like a left to right. That one's going to go there. Okay, so now what I'm going to try and do, so you can see here, I'm trying to basically lift everything out of this. Just make sure everything's loose and I can get everything out. It's all moving. So if I can hold that like that, try and then just thread it straight in. And that might be the easiest conversion I've ever seen anyone do. And again, I should not jinx this because as I'm saying that, I'm now like, okay, what have I done wrong? But that basically was just me taking that entire part and then dropping this straight in here. I'll try and see if I can just get that trigger pin back into position. So I'm just going to have to move this around somewhat. Just see where that is. I always find it's very hard to kind of see where things are moving in. You know, when it's like blacked out like that and then you can't actually see where anything's gone, it's normally quite an annoying proposition. But I mean, that could have been a lot more difficult, guys. Like if I hadn't have got fairly lucky there. Okay, so that doesn't seem to be screwing in, which I think might just be because this one has that porthole. This one may not have it, which I don't think is going to be a big deal because it doesn't really need that particularly. Okay, so let me just see if we can make this line up. There we go. So I'm just putting in these ones here. I don't want to over tighten this because it is it is plastic, just like the original lower is, but also it is 3D printed, and I think it'll be fine because I haven't seen any issues so far with these, but I don't really want to like over tighten anything and then risk cracking part of the body, because it's definitely gonna be more expensive to replace this than it is for other pieces. So this guy here, yeah, there's no porthole there, I don't think, for that screw. So I'm going to leave that one out. I can't see why it would cause any issue, but that's just something I'm going to do there. I'm going to put this guy back in. So that's going to be there. It says up. Just basically putting this safety straight back in here. And then what I'm going to do, guys, is I am going to, after this, right, so that's in. We're all good there with the safety. That stops and that plays. So if I push this in here, that is stopping the trigger from pulling. And then if I push this back, that's allowing me then to pull the trigger back. So that's perfect. And then as I say that, I've just messed that up big time. Right, so I have just lost one of the springs that is probably the most vital spring in the entire build. So I'm going to pause this for 1 second. I'm going to have a look around before I start dropping everything, because I've done this before, and you lose the spring, you're going to have to order another one and it's going to be great. I don't know why I didn't just secure that, because I basically just allowed this trigger bar with that trigger to pull that rear piece straight up, and then that slide spring here just popped out, which again, as I said, is a very important one. So I'm going to pause this for 1 second and hopefully I'll be back in a minute with a spring that I've actually found. Okay, so the spring literally was just sitting right here. So I'm very lucky with that. But what it does mean is I can probably now show you what's so horrible with these. So this spring basically sits down in this groove here. It needs to sit down in that groove, and then it has to have this little pin on top just sit in place on there. So I'm now going to have to try, or I am going to, sorry, put this in and not allow this guy to pop out, because that is, I think they've actually improved this looking at it. Looks like this is not as bad as it used to be. These used to be on the other older AAP-01s, because this is the C. It used to be very hard to get that spring in place. It looks like with that right now, I've just put that straight in. Obviously, that might not be the case, so I don't want to get too excited too quickly. But if that has just gone straight in like that, to make sure this trigger bar is going to sit in the right space. Now, what I've done before as well on these is I've found that trigger bar, that spring, and then I've literally, as I'm installing it again, put it in exactly the wrong spot. So I think we're good there. Yeah, so that now you can see the springiness on there. So that spring is in place. So what I'm going to do is actually put these pins back in before I do that again, and then end up messing it up. So that's going to go straight in there. This guy is going to go straight in here. A little punch. And then I should be good. So let's try and see if this is going to work with this guy. So that's now just going to sit right on there. And what I have done is I have lost the rear, which only now you realize, but I have lost the rear actual little button which separates it, which I've never removed before. So that thing's shot off somewhere. And again, as I said, I'm like, okay, this is the easiest thing ever. And then I'm like, I found the spring. This is going far too easy considering what was going on. So I will now pause the video again and I'll find that. Bye. Okay, this might be like the dumbest one you can ever watch. It is literally in the lower right there. It never was separately attached. It's in the lower. So I just need to remove those pins again. Wow. And move that thing slightly, this time without losing that pin again, without losing that spring again, and then basically just put that into place. So we'll see. Like now I've just kind of like taken it far too easy. I'm really worried I'm going to lose one of these pins now, or I'm going to lose something. So let me just push this in. I'm trying to think how we actually get this out now. So there is a spring there, which just basically, as we push that, it's doing the... I just lift it. Oh, I can just pull it straight out the back. Okay, so I can pull that out the back. I can then take this spring off here. I'm going to lift this guy slightly without losing that spring again. Place this spring on the end here, and that sits there perfectly. And then I am going to slide this guy in and place this guy down. Okay, so that's still there, that's still there, that's still there. This guy is going to go back in this way. And this guy is going to go back in this way. Just make sure that goes in. A little knock. Okay, so now I've actually got that on the back here, which should be the catch, which will hold the upper in place. So when I do that, I can then do that. And that is now, I think that thing looks pretty cool. Two-tone with the AAP-01C. I think that looks pretty awesome. What it's going to look like with the MP5 mag in it, if I'm going with the long guy, it's going to be that. And then what I'm going to do is actually just put a little suppressor on here. I'll do that in this video as well. But what I'll actually do also is I'll give you guys just a quick look of what this looks like firing, because I will attach it to an HPA line so you can see it going. But that was how easy it was to take that hybrid lower and turn it into now an HPA'd AAP-01. So I'll pause this again quickly, guys. Sorry, it's a lot of pausing today. I'll pause this again quickly and I will go and get my HPA tank, and then I'll give you guys a little demonstration of what this is like. It's going to fire probably very similar RPS, but it's just going to mean that I have unlimited air and unlimited BBs if I'm using these mags. So see you in a sec. Okay guys, so here's my tank. I've got this set, like that's now an empty low, I don't need that. I've got this set to a very low PSI, so I've got this set to about 85 PSI on here. Got a tank here, it's just a Tipman tank. I've got kind of newer, better ones that I prefer, but that was the one I had right next to me. And then I've got this Redline Airsoft regulator, which I'm going to put on here, and I'm going to basically just run it very low PSI, because I don't need to run it as a high PSI. Like, this doesn't really have many moving parts in it. It's got this small bolt which is just going to cycle, and so that really doesn't need much in terms of actual like power to push it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure this is on semi first. I'm actually going to load this mag, which probably would help. Okay, so we'll fill this up so I can show you guys properly what it's like. This regulator has a real tendency to, when I connect it, I like need to re-screw it in. It's weird. I don't know if any of you guys have that with yours, but it's definitely something I have with this regulator. Let me just do a little. Let's go down so it'll look at me higher. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just put this guy on here. Sorry, I should have my setup here where I've got like a tank and a line and everything. Okay, so that's in. Okay, so that's in. So now if I cycle this, you can see there, it's cycling. Super snappy. And now what I'm going to do is just put this guy in here. I might need more BBs, I've just realized. Here is the firing of it. Haven't got the hop up set. That's probably a good idea to do that, isn't it? So what I need to do is actually get the hop up working on this guy. So I'm going to disconnect this line. And I am going to set my hop. So hopefully, I think that means, or I might have to increase the PSI, but I think that was just the hop that is stopping that there from actually allowing the BBs just to cycle, and they're just in the end of it. Okay, well, that didn't feed. It might be that it's not pushing them up. There we go. So that's that firing on semi, and now on full auto. So you can see I can just run that and run that and run that. This literally now it will just go indefinitely, unlike a gas magazine like the ones that I have, like that will need to cool down, and it's not going to work in the same way. Like, it's not going to have the same consistency. But guys, that was very easy. That is now how I've converted that into this. What I'm actually going to do quickly for you guys is just show you what this is like on what it's going to look like when I put that little suppressor on the end, and we'll see what my actual end of my build is going to look like. I will do some more videos on these hybrid adapters, because I've got one for an MP9, which I think you guys will quite enjoy. But I've got so much stuff. I'll put that down there very gently. What I'm going to do now quickly is just show you guys, number one, how this works, because there are BBs in there. If you look here, you can see that there are BBs. They won't necessarily come to the top because there's no spring pushing BBs in there, but there is a little button in here, which I don't know how I push it. So I'm gonna have to, oh, and there we go. So I can just basically push that in, and that's just gonna remove all of the BBs from that feeding tube area. You obviously don't need to do that, but if you're wanting to work on it, open it up, do different things with it, then it's probably advised. So now basically that is my lower all built out. I can then put that straight onto whatever upper that I want to, and then I can now run those MP5 mags in any, like as many of these as I want. It just means that my mag capacity now, I've just done that and then put another BB in there, which is a great idea. There we go. Means that now I just can use any MP5 mags that I want instead of having to buy more and more of these, which are like $30 to $50, depending on what you're buying. What I will do on this is actually, got another BB in here. What I will do on this is I will do the trigger. So I'll probably make that another video where I just convert that trigger. But I think that's going to be quite an easy one, just based on how easy that was to move over the internals. I've done this one before in terms of the removing of the red tip, if you've seen that video. So this should be, hopefully, putting in this adapter fairly easy. And then I can just show you guys what it's going to look like with that in place. So this is a bit of a more finicky. So this is the rubberized piece that I put in here. It came with the AAP-01. Like when you get them in the US, they're going to come with a horrible orange plastic thing in this place. And this is what I put in here, which is this orange kind of barrel stabilizer. And what I bought was a piece, and this is made by Action Army, I believe. So the same company that make the actual AAP-01. So it's a part effectively. And this is going to be the same looking thing. This is rubber and this is just solid. And this should hopefully just slide straight into this piece, and then I can just bolt it in place. And that will allow me now, once this is in, if I can get it in fully, to run this in a suppressed format. So I can use this end and then attach that going in. This looks like I need to give it a little bit more of a jimmy to get it in. Might not be the best way to do it. So it looks like it's just not quite aligning that hole. Get this one in first and see if this helps. If we can squeeze it into spot, then that would be great. But it does feel slightly like this isn't going fully into the right screw hole. I've got a softened kind of rubberized hammer here, which is why that should be a bit better than, I don't want to hit it there. Yeah, because it's kind of turning, but it's not really sitting in that hole properly. Let's take it out and see if we've got any other. That's one of the screws. Yeah, it's just not fully in line. You can kind of see there, it's just scratching just on that edge. So I take this out. Might actually just quickly open this one up as well, and then I can just maybe put it in slightly better position. This is another screw on the bottom here. And there's another one up there. So I might need to do this screw as well. for that upper sight. Slightly smaller one. Worry is that I'm gonna have to like actually take this whole barrel piece out, which I just don't want to do in this video, because I think it should really just slide straight in there and it should allow us to just put this in place, but it's obviously not doing that right now. Oh, that looks like it's now gone in. So maybe that was my issue, is I was just needing to move that screw out of the way, but I do expect we may well have an issue now getting the other screw back in. We'll see. Okay, so that one's now going in fine, which is great. Same with this one. That's the other thing, guys, as well. I'd say, like, I just showed you the bad way to do it because I scratched it, but try not to rush. I'm doing this on a video, so again, I'm kind of like trying to use that as my excuse right now. But I think if you are having issues with screws not fitting, don't just try and force it. Maybe take a second and then have a look and just see if there's something you can slightly maneuver to get it back in, because I don't really know what happened there. I don't know which one of these screws was kind of what allowed this to move in, but I'm presuming that top screw or that lower one may have just been sitting slightly lower than it should be, and so therefore it will it was just kind of catching or not letting it sit flush. See now if we are all good on that. Okay, so that's now what it looks like with that on, and I don't actually have the suppressor that I'm going to use with this, but I do, from one of my last videos, have the Smoky Wolf case right here. So what we'll do is we will just take this spring out because we don't need that, and I will put this back on. So it's just going to make a very hollow noise, but I think this could look quite cool. You know, I'm kind of tempted with this just to kind of go full carbine for this lower, but I do think that does look quite cool. It looks like very kind of like suppressed secret agent style. Looks a bit weird maybe with the extended mag in the bottom, but I don't know. I quite like it. Anyway, guys, this has been, like, it really feels like it's kind of like a boomerang or something. Anyway, guys, this has been 6mm Badger's channel. Hope you guys have enjoyed this today. I think that has been, to be honest, one of the least eventful install videos that I've had. I normally will lose a lot more, or it will go bad in some way, orange tips, etc. But I'm quite happy with that. So if you guys found this of interest, please do like, subscribe, comment. If you'd like to become a member, I'd really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, as I said, put them below. Thanks, guys. Speak soon. Bye.